Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Starbuck with us, which she is going to share some very sensitive and personal abduction slash encounters with two different types of extraterrestrials. And not only has she had these encounters, but her friend has been a part of some of them as well. And I think it's fascinating. I've known Starbuck now for years. She is legit. She's not selling any books. She doesn't have any agendas except for she wants to get this information out there. And I appreciate that. So I am giving her an open platform. Thank you, Starbuck, for joining us here at the Leak Project. How have you been? How the heck are you?
Hey Rex, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, it's been quite a wild journey. There's been a lot going on, and I can't wait to share it with the with people here.
That's great. Well, and let me tell you too, just to give the audience a background a little bit about you, the way that we met was really unique because you actually heard me talking on a chat forum. It's funny because, folks, before I was doing Leak Project full time, when I was doing a full time job for a Fortune 100 company, as I told you before, I was still ranting and raving about certain agendas that the powers that be seem to have and things that frustrated me with everyday life, such as the chemtrails, the stuff in the vaccines, and just all, Fukushima and other events that have taken place, the false flags, the lying in the media. And I used to rant about it all the time in a forum that was out there when they had a specific chat part open. And she heard me talking a few times, and then she reached out to me, and she knew something about my life, which nobody would know unless they were a part of my life. And it was really cool. And ever since then, I think we've had a really neat relationship. Sometimes we won't talk for a couple of years, but when we do talk, we don't skip a beat. And I just feel honored to have her on the show. So Starbuck, let's rock and roll. What do you got for us?
Okay, well, let me just start off in the beginning that in 2006, I was contacted by three multidimensional blue genderless and faceless translucent beings. And I've always been interested in the ufology field. I've always been interested in spirituality, and so I started getting really interested in this whole starseed concept where you may not be from this planet. And I've always felt very close to the stars. And with that said, I had a contact experience, the first one being these multidimensional beings that came up to me in a dream and said that I was Pleiadian. So I didn't understand what that meant at the time, and that was 2006. I'm almost 29 years old now, and I've had a plethora of these experiences from all the way from 2006 up to now. And during my research, I also have had experiences in between that where I've come across the Greys, I've come across the Reptilians, I've also come across these Pleiadians. And when that happened, it was very confusing at first, because I was taken onto these ships and I didn't dare talk about this to anybody else because I didn't want anybody to think I was nuts. So I kept it to myself for a while, and this this woman who contacted me is a Pleiadian, and that was 2010 that she took me onto the ship. We embraced each other, and I absolutely recognized that there was some kind of soul recognition there, and she had explained to me a few things about something to do with concept of Trinity, which I don't understand still to this day. Now, the reason why I'm saying these things is because I've been involved in a long string of experiences that eventually led to real physical contact. And these people are here now because they are a family, and in a sense. So with everybody here on the planet, a lot of people, they used to be a part of Atlantis, and since there was a massive tragedy, we have all forgotten that. But that's what I've come to find out in any event, through a lot of experiences and questioning and talking to people and talking to them, quite frankly. Do you have any questions before I go on?
Yeah. So in 2006, when you had your first experience, let's get into that.
Okay. Okay. Which 2006? You
Your
mean,
very,
wait, which
your
one?
very first, your very first experience that you remember, and if you could get into it with details as much as you can, put us in the picture. That'd be much appreciated.
With the multi-dimensional beings?
Yeah, I mean, was that your first one? Was that your very first encounter with something that wasn't human?
Yes. That was my first encounter, and then after that, it was the Greys, that had taken me to an underground base. At least that's what it looked like. So in the beginning, the multidimensional beings, that one was in a dream. Okay, so I was in my grandmother's house for some reason, and this is exactly how it went down. I was I was there, and there were all of a sudden these three blue people. They have no faces, they have no gender, and the energy about them is extremely intense. But they were dwarfing me. They were very, very tall, translucent beings. And they said, and they mentioned my name, I can't mention, and they said, "You are Pleiadian." And when they said that, I recognized the fact that I was a part of a group of people that decided to incarnate here on this planet to be a part of these changes that are taking place on the earth. And they have been for quite a while, but now we're coming into a time where we're starting to see these powers or factions that are just starting to just fall apart. And now the illusion is being broken, so people can see that. But in any event, there was, because it was a dream, there was also a tiger that had come up to me, and I haven't quite figured out what that meant, but there's a tiger that came up to me, and I could feel his whiskers on my face, and that was sort of the end of it, of that experience.
Okay. And when you had your experience with the Greys, let's get into that and the underground. You said that's what you thought it was.
Oh yeah, that was a very intense experience. So this
And
happened when I
let me
was.
ask you real quick too before we get sorry to interrupt. Did they
That's
look
okay.
like this?
I'm sorry. Wait.
Did they look like this picture on the screen? The Greys.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I'm not sure if that picture is real. They do look like that. They vary in size. There are tall grays, there are shorter grays, and sometimes there would be people with them, but I wouldn't see their faces. So
And how many so you saw all different sizes of the Greys?
yes,
And they had what were they did they wear any clothes?
yes, the ones that took me, they were wearing a silver suit. It seemed that that's what they were wearing, and it was a silver suit with some kind of a belt that they were wearing, and it seemed pretty tight fit. And this is when they were standing in the driveway before I was taken into their craft.
And did they have shoes on?
I don't remember if they actually had shoes on, to be honest with you. I just know that they had a suit on, and they did have those almond-shaped eyes, very characteristic of grays, and the pale sort of skin.
So, okay, this was 13. No, this would have been 11 years ago. So you would have been 18, and they
Hmm.
picked you up in your driveway, and they were in a craft.
Yeah. What happened was when I went to bed that night, before I did, there was a strange set of lights going on outside, and we had lived in a very secluded area away from town. So we were kind of like sort of, near the beach, actually literally right on the beach. So we were tucked into, a secluded place. And when I saw these lights, I thought it was just another car coming in somewhere, but I ignored it. And the next thing I know, I'm standing in the living room, and I feel some sort of sense of movement where they've come to land outside, and I'm completely conscious of what's going on here. So for some reason, I open the door, I walk outside, I feel the grass on my feet, and I get to the driveway, and there he is, standing right there. I wasn't sure actually if there were two of them or if he had turned away from the window that he was looking into. Because what I remember is that I saw the being looking into the window where I was sleeping, and then he turned and walked towards me, and with his trying to think what side it was, his left hand, with his left hand from your point of view, so on the right side, he put his palm up. I don't know if that's significant or not, but he put his hand up, and with his palm facing towards me, he said, "Do not be afraid. We will not harm you." And I couldn't move, so I felt the classic symptoms of sleep paralysis, which is when the body goes into a mode where you're unable to move because the muscles have completely gone numb, so to speak. But I was standing in the driveway, and I couldn't do anything as he was coming towards me. And the next thing I know, I'm being put into this vehicle, which I'm not sure if they put some sort of a screen memory or if I was really put into some kind of I don't know what it was, but I know that there's two memories of a car there, and then there's a memory of a ship being there. And this is all truthful. I know it might sound confusing, but sometimes they have the ability to put in screen memories, which is when they are able to mentally confuse you. So when somebody sees something like, I don't know, an owl or a shadow person with a hat, those are screen memories that they put in your head so you don't know what has happened to you. So at any event, I got into the craft, and is what I'm assuming I got into the craft because, they put me into a vehicle, but, anyway, sorry, I got off track there talking about screen memories.
No, that's okay. And what you're talking about, I'll just interject with that real quick because I've heard a lot of people say the same thing, and experts that have done a lot of regression sessions have to go through implanted memories. And the more details you can give us, Kendall, the better, because I think that when you get into some really good descriptions and you're just fluid with it and you're not worrying about, oh, this is too much detail, maybe I shouldn't talk about this, don't do that. I mean, the more information, the better. And when you're being natural about it, I think that helps with the skeptics that are out there, because a lot of times skeptics have the best intentions. They just have been lied to so many times before, and they're looking at Occam's razor where they just want to see the most logical answers. And sometimes the most logical answer isn't the right answer. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the most far out, most lavish answer. And to add to that, what you're describing and what I know about you personally reminds me of a TV series out there that does a lot of tongue-in-cheek on ETs. It's also very funny, and I also feel that it's based on a lot of actual events and experiences because of the research that I've done and the people that I know. And it's called People of Earth. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I actually know the people who directed it.
Do you really? Well, that's eerie because that's cool too, by the way. I love the show. I love the series. And Conan O'Brien he's always been my favorite talk show guy because he's just watching this guy, wave his hands around. He's funny. He's like 7 feet tall. His hair's about a foot tall with red. And he always gives you a nip shot at every show. He's always playing with his nipple. But anyway, I am deviating from the topic here. But in People of Earth, that series, you've got the Pleidians, you've got the Greys, you've got the Reptilians, you've got the Shapeshifters, you've got the implanted memories, you have the car accident, which wasn't really a car accident, but they made it look like a car accident. Then they made it look like the guy hit a deer when he didn't. And every time he goes back to having, one of the main characters, every time he goes back to having visions of this abduction encounter, what happens? Well, he sees the deer, and he'll see the deer in the mirror. And then there's storyline to where they've been watching him and keeping track of him since he was a little kid. And a lot of people that have done research into this for years, like Daryl Sims, he claims that he's been abducted multiple times, his son, his father, and it's certain lineages that seem to be abducted more than others. I have various friends and people that I've known for years that have had very similar experiences and have been abducted by the Greys for, since they can remember. So I just wanted to add that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what they do. Although, I'll tell your viewers that the Reptilians, they don't look like that at all, and the Greys definitely don't look like that either. A little bit, but not
you mean
really.
from the TV show?
From the show.
Yeah, but it's isn't it funny how the
funny.
Grey is the one that actually feels like he's the boss, and he's anyway. Is it like that from what you've noticed? Let's get back into your story.
Okay, sure, no problem. Well, okay, that's right. So I was put into, I was put into what seemed like a vehicle at first, but I was really put into the craft because from then on, I knew that we were going into the water because I had lived right on the beach, and we went in there. And when we did, I remember going through a series of tunnels that it was extremely fast. I mean, you couldn't even feel the speed. It was just very, very fast. And that was when there was a disconnect between dream and reality, meaning that I suddenly realized that this wasn't a dream anymore because I had woken up in a sort of a drug state in this laboratory place. And for some reason, I was wet. This isn't like something from The Matrix where, they pulled me out of a tube or something like that, but I was just wet for some reason. I don't know what was going on, but I remember being wet and having been submerged in water or something like that, which was some kind of experiment that they were doing to me. But in any event, I was taken to this area where they had these crystals, and they put these white crystals in my hand. Now, I don't remember who did this or what they looked like. I only remember the being that took me onto the craft before we got there. And these crystals were white, and a voice said to me, "These crystals are what we use to power, this is the energy we use to power our ships with." So I didn't know what I was holding in my hand. And after that happened, I was then taken somewhere to a completely different place with what seemed to be, honestly, it seemed to be something to do with the military. I don't know, some sort of operation where they were taking me somewhere, and it sort of looked like Afghanistan in a way, but I don't remember anything from that part of the experience.
When you say it looked
So,
like Afghanistan in a way, how so? Why not Iraq or Saudi Arabia?
yeah, it's because I've never been there, but it just looked like a very old town. The town looked like it was sort of in not a good place, and there were buildings that there seemed to be some sort of blockade around these buildings where they didn't want you to go in there. And I just don't remember that much from that, so I do apologize,
Oh,
about
no
that.
worries.
But yeah, I mean, they whatever they did, I tried to regress when I was in Oregon. I did a hypnosis therapy, and it didn't work. I wasn't able to retrieve anything from that experience.
Now, if we could get back into any details, like go back into that timeline and anything that comes up, description wise, details, what they were saying, what kind of eye contact, what their clothes? You said there were people that you couldn't see what they look like. Could you see their clothes? I mean, imagine somebody, if you were to describe this as good as you could, actually paint like a virtual reality image for somebody, because you're so good at drawing. How would you do that?
Okay. So a lot of my surroundings was very sort of greenish, metallic green, and the floor was almost like how you would walk across a one of those hard pads at the pool where if you have bare feet it hurts to walk across those squares or something like that. It had that kind of flooring for part of it because there's a lot of metallic structures. There were these large machines next to me that were making drumming sounds, not like drums, but just a humming kind of low droning, sound. And there seemed to be something hanging. I just still don't know what it was, but on my left side, and there's another area where there were these hooks, and something was hanging on the hooks, and it looked like um it looked like inactive robotic people, which sounds really bizarre, or people themselves, but I'm not sure, because the other bizarre thing was that there was another level of where I was, another floor that I could see these people. See, this is why I thought that I was in like Los Alamos in New Mexico or something like that. And there was a feline person that was whipping these people, and like they were slaves or something like that. That's an honest to God memory that I have of people being in these cages and being tortured, and I couldn't do anything about it. They were just there to show me what was going on, and that's why I believe I was in some kind of underground base, because it's just pretty messed up to see something like that. But
Yeah, let me ask about that if I can,
mhm,
Starbuck. You said that you remember people getting whipped. Were they
mhm.
in chains? What were they dressed
They
up
were in
in?
they were in chains, and from what I remember, they were just regular people that were being abused. But this was a long time ago, so I don't think anything like that is happening. From what I understand, there were a lot of experiments that were happening with people and being taken to these underground bases and had being experimented on, and all these weird genetic experiments going on. It's really bizarre.
Well, and you said New Mexico, and you also said Afghanistan. So you filled, you started in one place and went to the other
Yeah,
through the tunnels?
yeah. Because through the tunnel, there was I'm assuming there was a really fast speed train that we got on where we went to either another location, and I don't remember the other location that well. That's the problem. I wish I could, because I don't know what that was, where I was being taken with these other people.
Now, were there grays with you the whole time?
I don't know. I only know that they were there in the very beginning before I was taken onto that craft.
Now, let me go back again because I kind of, at first I thought you said you like opened the door and they were there, and then it made it, what I got from it was like they captured you while you were still in your bed. So did you hear them outside? You went and said, open the door, or can you walk us back
Yeah.
to that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a little confusing. So before when I saw the lights, I decided that I'd get out of bed, and I was walking around the living room and I decided to go outside, and that's when I noticed that things started changing because these beings were there in the driveway, and that one of them, because I wasn't sure if there were two of them, like I mentioned before, one of them was staring into the bedroom where I was sleeping, as if they were it's a possibility that they were that this was an out of body experience that they forced me to have, or something like that. I've always put that possibility out there, and but otherwise, I was standing in the driveway and he turned around, and I'm pretty sure there was just one. It was just that my memory from that time is sort of fragmented, if you will.
So you remember going from being in your bed asleep to being in the driveway to being on the ship to going into a underground tunnel system, and from there you went from, you think, New Mexico to possibly Afghanistan, somewhere around there, and then you woke up.
Well, it looked like Afghanistan. See, when I was there, they led me to this other area where there was a big tunnel and possibly a super fast speed train that we got on to go from one location to the next. You know what I mean? So these bases are connected to each other.
No, I get that. Yeah. So I'm just wanting to know what happened after you remember the area that you think was like Afghanistan.
Oh, nothing
Like what?
happened after that. Yeah, nothing happened after that, and I have a lot of difficulties trying to recall what that place was. That's why I can only remember there's like desert, and then there's some sort of like city that
Now,
looked like Afghanistan or something like that to
right,
me.
right. Just that's a good analogy that you want to use, and that's totally cool. Now, when you said you saw the feline people that were whipping prisoners, and you saw prisoners in cages, when in the timeline was this?
That was still when I was taken to that first part of the base, when I realized that I was in a sort of like a drug state, and I looked up and I saw all the stuff, like the stuff hanging on the walls, and then to the other side of me, on another level, there was a feline looking person. They almost look like, it's weird. They look like people, but they have like feline expressions, and they were they were whipping this person. Yeah,
Was he in the cage when they were whipping him, or out of the cage?
out of the cage.
And was he like crying? Was he screaming? Was he bloody? Was he?
No, I don't remember any of that. I know that there was screaming, yeah.
Did he have clothes on? I mean, what?
I don't think he did. Mm-mm.
And you're talking about these feline people. I got to interject a little bit because I'm having a synchronicity moment here. I did
You
a
are?
podcast recently on these lion people figurines that were discovered in caves in Germany that are approximately 40,000 years old. And then people started leaving comments on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestine time lord, about the Lemurians and how many people think that they were actually feline people. And then I started thinking about the Sphinx. And yes, it's got a human face, but it's got a lion body. Then I started thinking about all these petroglyphs and carvings and Sumerian gods and Greek gods that had different animal parts and human faces. And I think there's a lot of symbology there. And I also think there was a lot of genetic manipulation that went on back then. And I also think that and I also remember when Dick Algier, he's a very good remote viewer. He's done a lot of remote viewing with the Farsight Institute. When he did the remote viewing session on the Phoenix Lights, he talked about the people that he saw inside of the craft being there was a couple different types of beings, but he said the ones in particular that seemed to be kind of at the apex, the officer level, they were very synchronized in movement. They were tall. They didn't waste any time. They didn't waste any space. They didn't waste anything that they did. And their faces morphed into cat-like faces, into feline faces back and forth. He said that was a really interesting, and he was kind of confused when he was seeing it, and he even made a remark about it, yet that was what he saw. And for those that know about a good remote viewer can not only tap into the vision of something, but also the emotions, the smells, the different senses. And there's a lot of documentation that verifies a good remote viewer, and Dick Algier is one of the best in the world.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know that much about these feline people. It would be wrong to classify them in a category where they would be negative extraterrestrials.
Yeah, they just like to whip people in cages. No big deal.
Oh, well, I mean, that's
They're
no,
happy,
that's
man.
terrible,
Pissed
but
them off. They were
no,
mad.
but
That guy went for the buttercup. He went for the candy, and they said, "No candy for you. You're gonna get the whipping."
that's
Sorry,
terrible.
that's terrible.
No, that's okay. From what I understand and what I've been told, yes, these feline people they were involved with the whole Atlantis thing. They were around. I'm sorry, Facebook thing keeps buzzing and it's really annoying. I don't
It's
know
the
if you can hear
archons.
that.
Yeah, I heard it.
Um, no, it's just other people messaging me.
I was sarcastic.
But no, I know.
Yeah, just
So
check it. You're like, is he serious? No, I'm not. Please continue. I know I'm going to hear a whole bunch about this in the comment section. You guys, we gotta put fun of this a little bit, but also this is very serious because now I'm even going to interject another thing here. I remember interviewing Ra from the Ra Castaldo YouTube channel. I think it's Exploring the Ka with Ra Castaldo, and he talks about these feline people that he would see, and they are oftentimes around musicians and entertainers, kind of harvesting the energies in a different dimension or in a vibrational frequency that we're not picking up with our physical eyes.
I don't know what to say about that.
You don't need to say anything. I just think it's interesting that so many people have talked about these feline beings, and now you're bringing it up as well. That just kind of adds to what you're discussing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is interesting. It's it's a very bizarre thing. 'Cause when people think, "Oh, what, feline people? That's what the hell? That doesn't make any sense at all." Yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense, but I've seen it. So, it's it is interesting. Yeah.
Now, okay, so what else do you remember about this experience? Is there anything that you haven't shared with us that you want to about that specific abduction or encounter?
No, not really. That's just one of the many experiences that I've had. The most important ones being when I met Myra, because she was the main Pleiadian that I interacted with for several years, and then I then I came into a um, then I came into a physical contact with not with her, but with someone else that's an extraterrestrial. That this is it's it's I'm sorry, I'm trying to put my thoughts together with this.
Well, no, let's
um
talk about Myra. So let's get into that. When was
okay.
the first experience that you had? And you said she's a Pleiadian. Does she look like this person right here or this picture?
um Let me see, hold on. No, no, not at all. That I don't even think that's a Pleiadian right there. It might even be a clay sculpture or model.
Probably is. Yeah. Now, what about this picture right here? This could be just a pretty lady with some interesting lighting and some contacts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't look like that either. They don't
Okay.
have red eyes. That I don't know what that person or being is.
Well, what does she look like? Does she look like the typical picture you see of a Pleiadian with the beautiful hair, supermodel looking, the amazing skin, everything's virtually perfect? Just
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah. They tend to have a perfection about themselves. That Myra is very tall. She has long blonde hair. Not all of them are blonde though, you know. And she wears a dark blue suit. There is a belt. I don't know what they use it for, but they do wear it. And they have some kind of footwear that's either attached to the suit, or I'm pretty sure it seems to be just like a onesie suit kind of thing that you just slip into. And she's got blue eyes, and she has her status about her is that she's part of the High Council of what she told me to be the Galactic Federation of Light. And it was interesting when I had the experience in 2010, because I suddenly found myself on a ship all of a sudden. And this is, of course, during one of those twilight times when you're not sure if you're sleeping or awake. So I'll be honest and say that I couldn't be sure if it was a physical experience or not, although there are times when I knew that it was. You know what I mean? So
Well, what
anyway,
makes it different when you say that you know there's times that you have had physical experiences versus not?
because there was a time where I was taken onto the craft and I was laying on my back and had woken up when they were trying to show me something. I woke up on the table during whatever they were trying to do, and that was real. I remember there were three of them standing around me, and they told me, "Don't worry, don't. It's okay. This is standard procedure." And that by far that was a very physical experience for me. But when I say I've met them physically, you know, I've had to this day now. There's physical contact going on in the flesh, but not with her though.
So when was your most recent physical encounter?
Okay, so the the thing is that our friend has come into contact with a group of them, and this is where I can't drop any names or locations because the Pleidians are pretty discreet about what they're doing, and they don't want their they don't want we don't want the adversaries or people with ill intentions to, you know, kind of come after them in a way. So what I can say is that the main reason why I wanted to come on here is to explain that they're here to help facilitate the disclosure that's going on right now. And a lot of people are getting really annoyed and fed up with the fact that it's like, well, you know, is disclosure coming around the corner? I always hear, oh, it's soon. It's, you know, it's it's going to happen soon. Just, you know, just keep waiting. But we're coming into a time where there's these people in power are really at they're on their last legs, and they're not able to do the things that they usually would do to they're not able to move forward with the plans that they wanted to move forward with, like World War III or something like that, because that's not allowed. And the reason why is because these ETs, these nuclear threats are also a threat to their own dimension as well, and so we're sort of a threat to them. And at the same time, they're our brothers and sisters, so it's not like they're gonna. So I have to say, you know, it's not like, oh, the ETs are going to save us all. No, the world is not going to have a silver spoon delivered to it, and you know, that's not, nobody's going to suddenly be whisked away and saved. Um, so I had to say that because these Pleiadians, there are brothers and sisters. A lot of them, a lot of them are here to make first contact on on an individual basis with people that have been selected to be contacted, if that makes sense. Am I not making sense right now? I'm so sorry if
No, you're
it's all over
fine.
the
You're making
place.
sense. Now, you are kind of going and hitting on a few things, and I do that all the time too. That's no problem. So let's get back to the experiences. You said you can't tell us where they are. That's fine. But what can you tell us? I mean, talk to us about some recent encounters and experiences, and what do you do? Make the skeptics believe.
Okay, so I've been given permission to say what they look like, what some of, like, I hardly know really what their customs are, but I can tell you what they eat. And you know,
Do
I can
they
tell
eat
you.
people?
No, wait, what'd you say?
I said, do they eat people?
No, they don't eat people. Um,
You're like, dang it, how
so
did he know? Told me I can't answer that.
yeah, Well, okay. So these people, they tend to have European features in a way. They have higher cheekbones. They're very good looking people. Like I said, they have they come across, they appear very, they don't, I don't want to give people the wrong idea, like they're like you know, because they're not all, a lot of people when they think of Pleiadians and they're all blonde and blue-eyed and whatever, they think, oh, you know, that's Hitler's idea of a perfect white race, but it's not like that. A lot of them have brunette hair, and but the males tend to be more muscular and they have longer hair. I liken it to like a pianist or a composer, you know what I mean? This kind of
Sure.
that typical hairstyle. I don't know why they do that. I'm sure I'll find out later. I'll ask them, but they they're discreet about what they do. They they have blue eyes, green eyes. Some of them, I guess, have brown eyes. They're very tall. Some of them are vegan, and some of them are not. But the ones that are very, very aware of their vibration when they're eating these they're when they're eating that food, and they don't eat our food. They eat their own food that they grow on their own farms on the ship. Now I know this because our very, very, very close friend who is having she's been in contact with them, and they have subsequently been in contact with us, and I've been given some information here and there. I don't know everything, and also I'm very careful not to um, associate, you know, these things with the truth, because it's very possible that it could be a cult. And we all know what happened with Heaven's Gate in the 90s, where people were told that there was an alien race, and oh, you know, this disclosure is going to happen on a comet, and everyone killed themselves. So you know, it's important to be skeptical. It's important to have your wits about you. And um, I can only say, you know, it's exciting to me because of the experiences that I've gone through. And unfortunately, and this really sucks, but I don't have any way of validating what I'm saying because this is all new information to me as well. So,
Have you seen the farms on the ships?
no, I haven't. No, I have not.
So you're just going off of what they're telling you and your friend?
Um, well, I mean, there are other things like seeing the reptilian, and I can't say why or how, but I know that they're real, and that's
Well, talk to us. Tell us what you can. I mean, you can't give us a cliffhanger like that on the
yeah,
reptilians.
I
Talk to
know.
us about that.
Okay, well, some of the reptilians have, I guess they have their own agenda, but I'm not entirely sure. The one that I saw, he's got we don't know each other, but he's got a they have they do look like what most people think they do, but they don't have dinosaur heads. They look like, picture picture a reptilian, and not with a long snout. These guys, they have, I feel so embarrassed. They're probably listening to what I'm saying right now. It's just funny because um you know, for our my friends and I, we sometimes we joke about their appearances, but some of them have a sense of humor and some of them don't. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were listening to the call. So
Well, I mean, do they look like a velocity raptor?
no, they don't. So
Do they
David
look like
Icke
Barney?
and no, David Icke and his descriptions are, there's like a drawing or something, and they don't look like they have lizard snouts, or they don't look like a velociraptor. They look more like hold on a second. They look more like sort of flatter face in a way, but not like people of Earth, not like that at all. it's sort of a shorter snout in the front,
What
and
about
the
like
nostrils.
any of these statues right here? These are all ancient statues that were discovered in Iraq.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like that. But and so they have a ridge that goes up to their forehead, and they have 4 separate ridges that go down their head. So and then also they have yellow eyes. They have cat-like pupils, and they have sort of like a grin. They're not actually. It looks like they're smiling. I mean, I don't know if they are or not, but it looks like they're smiling, and they have like this. They have sort of a flatter face. It's not like a protruding Tyrannosaurus Rex head. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to explain it in a way that, just imagine a person, and then as if the person was wearing a mask, and make it sort of reptilian looking in a way. Also, he had these 2 or 3 of these little, like, um, appendages that were coming out of his chin, like tiny horns in a way. So sort of like a beard, but not a beard. Instead, it's just these appendages.
So, and when was the last time that you saw a reptilian?
It was on, now I think about this, it was last week. Last week I
And
saw him. I was pretty freaked out by it at first, and now I don't know. I mean, can't say much about that, but it was freaky. But I don't really know what his specific agenda is.
did he
And
shapeshift? Did he just show up out of nowhere?
no, I saw him in a different way, and it wasn't in my head or anything like that. I just can't say how.
Why?
I don't know. Um I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't really want to say.
Do you have a pair of those sunglasses from They Live?
No, but I've seen that film. Well, I think part of it is because they've they've shown me this information, and I don't want to say how I got a hold of it in case one of the other groups is listening, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to do that," because one of them is a renegade, and they sort of broke the rules by doing that. So I don't want to get that group or person in trouble. That's why I don't want to say how.
Did they give you some psychedelics?
No, not at all.
They're like,
Mm-mm.
here's some really good psychedelics, and check this out. And all of a sudden they're
No,
like,
no, not at all.
no, okay, that's good. Well, I mean, was it technology? Did they give you some advanced? Is it
Uh,
harmonics? Is it a
yeah,
frequency?
yes and no. I'm gonna say that. Yes and no.
Is it like Bloody Mary, where you have to go in the bathroom and turn off the lights and say reptilian overlords, reptilian overlords, reptilian overlords 3 times in a row and turn around and then you look and then it should be there?
I would hope that didn't happen.
Kind of like Bloody Mary. All right. Well, I'm
Yeah,
trying to poke fun at it, but I really want to know. So this
I
is
know.
my way of
Yeah,
being like, you got to tell us without sounding rude. Come on, this is
if I
exciting.
can. Yeah, I know. If I can,
How to
I'll
see reptilians.
ask them if I can or not, because I don't think that he was supposed to do that, because um, I think that was breaking protocol by showing himself like that.
So he shapeshifted right in front of you.
In a way, in a way,
He went from like a person to somebody that you know, and then all of a sudden morphed.
in a way, yeah, yes, yeah, in a way. I mean, there's not really that much else to say about that, but
How many times have you seen a reptilian?
only once, and except that last time in 2007 or 2008, where my mother and I went to Florida, and I had another experience or dream where I went to another different kind of an underground base, and there were these jars that I came across that had these fetuses in there. They were very small. And then behind me, there were two of these lizard-looking things that were reptilians. They were looking at me, and this is before I know I mentioned this before to you, but this is before I knew anything about at all about reptilians. Because after I had that experience, I thought, okay, what are these things? What was that? Because after I had seen them in the underground base or whatnot, they sort of followed me out, and there was a brief short period before I realized that I was in my bed and my eyes were open. And again, we go back to the classic sleep paralysis thing where, you can't move, and they were there. And this is not the same kind of reptilian that I saw last week. This is a different kind of situation. I guess some of them look different, but the reason why I can verify, yeah, that the way that I described the reptilian from last week is how they look. I mean, I don't know if there's more of them here that look different, but the one that I saw, that he was wearing a cloak and he was doing something. It looked like he was materializing something with his hands, because I think part of him wasn't shapeshifted all the way. And in any event, I was frozen in bed. I don't want to confuse events now, but I was frozen in bed, and they were on top of me, and my mother was in the other guest bed, and the other one was on top of her, and I couldn't move. And that was a pretty frightening experience. I didn't know what they were doing, but that it didn't last that long. And they just ran through the wall somehow and disappeared. And then I turned on the light, and of course my mother was extremely agitated, and she didn't understand that what had happened in that bedroom was real. And I was beside myself. I couldn't sleep. She's like, "You were just having a nightmare." I said, "No, you don't understand. There are these things that came into the room. I can't explain it." And when I tried to, she was like, "Oh, we don't be, you just absolutely, this is just BS. This is ridiculous." And I'm like, "You know what? I'll just try to go back to sleep." So I did, and I pulled the sheets over my head, and excuse me, I pulled the sheets over my head, and I just tried to go to sleep.
And she didn't remember anything. She didn't have a dream, nothing.
No, she didn't. Mm-mm. Her eyes were closed. Mine were open. This was happening against my will. I had nothing. I couldn't do anything. It was when it was back like 2008 or 2007, something like that, because we were visiting my grandparents during November. So it was really bizarre. But I just wanted to point out what they actually look like, in case you ever think you're seeing one now today. But I'm not aware of any other type of forms out there. That's all. And if I can, I'll ask if I can actually give you the information and possibly show you something, if they give me permission to show you. So, and I might be able to do that after I ask, and I can show you.
Cool. That'd be great. And let's go back, if we can, to another experience, or maybe there's another encounter that you can share with us that was really powerful. And any more details or just putting us in the picture would be greatly appreciated. And also, to add to that, I want to say thanks for coming on the show thus far. It's been great.
Yeah, I feel really bad that I wasn't able to give them. I want to tell you, I'm trying to be respectful at the same time.
I'm not going to be able to go to sleep. I'm going to be doing these weird things in the mirror. I'm going to be I'm going to go cross-eyed and stuff in the mirror and see if I hold that long enough and start chanting something backwards. I'm joking. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
your viewers or your listeners might be like, what the heck, this is really confusing and doesn't add up. And yeah, something like that, I guess. But no, I mean, I talked about the Greys, I talked about the multidimensional beings. The Greys, they did come to visit me again, so this is before everything. So right now, people, okay, let me just say it this way. People who are starseeds, people who have had those past lives in Atlantis, Moon, Lemuria, etc. You know, your listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. These people, it's not like it's the chosen ones or something like that. No, we came here for a specific purpose. We have a mission to not only focus on ourselves and our own experiences in this lifetime, but also to help facilitate the changes that are really happening quite fast on this planet. Because disclosure is, I can tell you, it for sure, disclosure is on the horizon. Nobody has a date, obviously, but there is a lot of information that is coming out. There's a lot of information that needs to come out, and we're sort of here to help facilitate that. Does that make sense? And so many people around the world right now are actually being individually contacted by these groups. So I came on here to say that. So if you're wondering when my contact experience going to happen, it'll happen. You just have to be patient, and that's the thing. You just have to be patient. And I've been trying to be patient because I want answers, and I have my wits about me. We're trying to be very careful with the situation. We don't really know who these people are. So but our friend has been shown technology. They've disclosed their technology to her in a way that is in absolute proof because she asked for it. So that's the one thing that I can say.
Tell us some more about that, Darbo.
Okay, so I don't know what they disclosed to her. She won't tell me what they did.
Well, that was a letdown. Thanks for your honesty, but still, you could have been like, it was this anti-gravity stuff that was just incredible. It made him like into that giant lizard. Okay. Well, that's okay. So, but it was powerful enough for her to say, do you think she could just be pulling your leg though?
No, absolutely not. No. And I believe that she was probably taken onto a ship, but she just won't say. So because these people have grown this type of lettuce on their farm that they're eating, and it's part of their vegan lifestyle that they're trying to do, and they're helping her learn how to be healthier and to listen to herself more. And they're not like telling her what to do, and they're not, they're there to help her because I guess that she was involved with them a very long time ago, and a lot of people have been involved with these star families from a long time ago. We've just all forgotten, and that's why a lot of people. That's why we have like superheroes and villains, but that's all connected to the massive tragedy that happened a long time ago. Everybody's forgotten it, and sometimes it can come in the form of fragmented dreams where you might see that drawing that I showed you of something that looked like Planet X that I showed you. That's a fragmented memory from the times of Atlantis when the moon turned red. One of the moons turned red before there was a massive atomic type of antimatter explosion that just caused just a huge destruction. And it sunk. Atlantis sunk into the waters, and I don't know that much else about that. They haven't said anything to me about that. these people.
Let me
So
jump in real quick if I can.
sure.
Do you remember the dream that we both had, and we described it in detail to each other? It was identical. Do you remember that?
I actually I don't.
Okay.
Can you refresh my
That's
memory?
okay. Absolutely. I sure can. And I'll just say a little bit of it. Let's see if you can pick up the rest so people know that I'm, not just making something up here. Several years ago, I had a dream where it was essentially, well, it was definitely an extinction level event. I was at some type of social gathering. I was outside, and I saw something come towards me, and I knew it was going to be the end of my physical existence in that plane. And do you remember what I said before it happened? And do you remember the dream now?
Mm-mm. No,
Oh,
no.
sucks. Okay. Well, I guess you guys are going to think that I made this up then, but in this dream that I had, it was essentially like a wall of fire. It was like a solar flare or something. I don't know what it was, but that was what basically in that dream that I had, in that vision. And before it happened, I just said, "I love you, God," and I just shouted that out. And then there was the flame, and then I woke up.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you about it, and I thought you said you had the same dream, but I must have just made that up.
No, you didn't make it up. I vaguely recall that we did talk about that, but what you saw was the antimatter explosion that killed us all. I mean, there are a lot of people on this earth now who were involved in that lifetime many eons ago, especially all the star seeds that are here, all of them. I mean, it was so catastrophic, to our souls that, and people just, it's a very emotional thing. It really
That's
is.
another thing I got to say here real quick before I forget. Then I'm going to let you take over, and I apologize, but this has been on my mind today. I took a really nice bike ride out into the hill country, which gives me an opportunity to meditate because there's nobody out there. And I was thinking about the Nibiru theory, about how Nibiru came and whacked planet Earth and caused all this chaos and destroyed all these other planets. And, it's just this rogue planet that's off of orbit, or this orbit's designed to hit these other planets. I don't buy that. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that divine creator, the creator of all, which I can't explain who or what it is, just that it's way above and beyond my pay grade, and the consciousness level of the divine providence being everywhere at all times, knowing everything, is just extraordinary to think about. And for those that think they can title that person or put a label on that person, or if you read these books in the Holy Bible, and if that is your description of the divine consciousness of all, the creator of everything, hey, that's cool. That's not the way I roll. And I was raised in that paradigm. And it took me a lot of years to break out of that paradigm. And that was the biggest conspiracy for me. It was religion and the control of spirituality, in essence. And so if the universe, the universal creator, creates things to be perfect, and every star has a specific alignment, a specific orbit, every planet, every asteroid, every meteor, everything is lined up perfectly. And then there is some type of creation, some type of manipulation. And whether that was the Anunnaki, whether that was the Archons, which I think the Archons and the Anunnaki are one and of the same if you read the Gnostic texts and the Sumerian texts. Yet I feel that there was something way before the Archons or the Anunnaki. I feel that there is something that goes so far back that did something to manipulate what was pure, what was right, what was absolute, what was in perfect harmony and balance. Everything was literally perfect and infinite. And they manipulated the system somehow, created the first cataclysm somewhere, which created a domino effect throughout the universe. And such as these catastrophes that we see, these galactic catastrophes, solar, planet-like, star-like, etc., well, maybe there was some type of foul play there. Maybe it was more than just a rogue planet. That's my thought on this Nibiru theory. I'm not saying Nibiru doesn't exist. I just don't think that there's this planet that does complete chaos every 3,600 years. And if there is, I don't think it started that way naturally. I think something had to knock it off course, which was done by something not from divine source.
Yeah, and NASA actually identified that brown dwarf star in the 90s, and they called it Planet X. They found it with infrared technology, and I think the story of Nibiru has greatly been exaggerated. And I know that there was an incident where there was a woman who actually like put down her dogs. Yeah, she just put down her dogs because she thought that this
Nancy
Planet
Leader.
X would just, yeah, I didn't want to I guess
No,
I
it's
didn't want to
okay.
mention her
I'm not
name.
knocking on her. I mean, I've had her on the show before. I didn't know before she was on the show that she did that, but she got
She
so nervous
did
about it
that.
that she put her dog down. Yeah.
Yeah, she thought that this planet was going to destroy everything, and she was in contact with the Zeta Reptilians, which are a race of greys that were supposedly channeling or communicating with her. And I'm very skeptical of channeling and anything like that, because you don't know the source that it's coming from. So there's that, and there's also the fact that if there was a planet that was going to crash into us, we would know, because we would be feeling major upheaval. I mean, even if this thing was fairly close to the Earth, or fairly far away, we would be experiencing tumultuous problems.
Well,
that
we're getting
like
effect from Planet Nine, which is outside of the Kuiper Belt, and so is the Sun. And there's been astrophysicists that have proved that, but that doesn't mean
oh
that there's a planet within our solar
yeah,
system that's outside of the Kuiper Belt, and it's still causing effects.
well, I don't think that a Planet X is going to smash into us.
I don't either.
I don't think that that'll happen. It's weird because I've heard a lot of stories about that in the past, and um, there were a lot of people that were talking about it, but I was skeptical. I thought, no, that just doesn't sound right. And if it did come around every 3,600 years, it wouldn't be a burning ball of red whatever. It wouldn't look like a Jupiter planet. It would be ice covered, because during that time, if it was going around, it would be frozen. You know what I mean? Because it's going around, and space is very cold, so it would be freezed. It would freeze over that period of time, I guess.
Well, certainly there's just so much that people can theorize and postulate and come up with their own conclusions about that. So we'll leave it at that. But is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we close out tonight?
Um, yeah, okay, so just remember that I came on here specifically to say that physical contact is happening now. There are a lot of other people who will be contacted. I knew that this was going to happen beforehand because um, not only did I read about it a lot of times, I also felt it in myself, in my being. So a lot of people are going to get contacted by these groups. Just be careful, because you need to always verify, who are these people. Don't just trust them right off the bat. Um, we are obviously being very cautious, and I will of course ask if I can divulge the other information about that reptilian to you. He was very friendly. He had a very high energy about him. When he met my friend, he
Oh,
was
did
like,
he?
"Hi." Oh yeah, he did. And he looked like a person at first, and he was like, "Hi, hi, how are you? Oh, it's so good to see you." And he was so happy. There was such a high positive energy about him, and when they hugged and everything, and he revealed his form through his eyes. But there was another thing that he did. I'm not sure
Did
if
he
he was
pull out his
supposed to do
tail?
or not. No, 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 no,
Did he say you could
no.
pet
It's
my
none of
tail?
that. It's more simple. It's more simple than that. So anyway, there's a lot of secrecy, because uh I'm just trying to be quiet because my friends are out there in the other room, um my roommates, and yeah. Okay,
What
so
would you
there's a
do
lot
if
of
your date drew a tail and he asked if you wanted to pet it? Would you do it?
um uh I don't know.
Maybe if you had a few drinks.
I don't know.
You know, I'm
Maybe.
joking, Starbuck. I'm
Yeah,
just
well,
giving
maybe
that.
so.
Of course she wouldn't do it. She'd be like, "Get out of here," or hey, she'd be like, "Hey, I'm not judging."
Oh, there's another important thing I forgot to say. This
I
is
knew there
very
was a reason
important.
I brought that up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So some of the Pleiadians are hermaphrodites. They they um they are they some of the women are hermaphrodites and some are not. Um, I don't know if it's the
What, they
same
got
way
both
with
parts?
yeah. Yep.
Have they like showed you? They're like, "Hey,
No.
check this out."
No.
Or never.
Nope. They haven't. This is just the biological information that that we found out. So no, I've never seen that before. Um, but I thought that would be important to mention because if people have ever had experiences where they find that out, then that's I don't know. I mean that some of the women are like that, and the other information is that these people um, they wear white, and they, at least for right now, they're wearing white clothes. They tend to do that. And there was an individual that I was in direct contact with, and he was trying to help out in Standing Rock. Um, he was responsible for putting the internet up over there to help his native friends. He became really close with the tribes people, and um, they made it they made a good relationship and everything. But unfortunately, I mean, hopefully, I don't know if this pipe is going to be put into put into. I don't know. I guess that they are building the pipe after all, but they were working really hard over there to help those people.
Yeah, unfortunately, it got signed into law, and they're going to be putting that pipe through North Dakota, and I don't know where else. But so, all right, well, we can definitely. I'd like to have you back on again, Starbuck. This has been great. I appreciate it, and this has been a good talk. I think that it's interesting to touch bases with you again. We've known each other now for, I would say, what, about 7 years?
Um, yeah, there is something else I'd like to add that's also important before I go.
Please.
Yeah, okay. So that there's we don't know what the end goal is, but we do know that the government what they really want to do is they want to pretend to have a false flag alien invasion. So um and their crafts that they've been back engineered from Roswell and all this technology that they have, um these craft are seamless, so you won't be able to tell the difference if it comes to that point, which, and we hope that it doesn't, but if it does, this is the World War III that people will see. It's an interplanetary thing, interplanetary war, where the government is going to be, it's going to be done by them. And the reason why is because they want a reason to go into space with space-based weapons, and they're gonna say, oh, these ETs are here to they're a threat. We need to take care of this. So they're slowly working their way up to it. But the way that you can tell the difference is, first of all, you'll not only be telepathically told that people will know, and at the same time, the falsity is that the bad ones will be taking people up into the sky. This is if this happens, is theoretical. They'd be taking people into the sky, and taking them onto their ships, and essentially they'd be, people would think, oh, these are the ETs coming here to save us, but that's not the case. The good ones will be landing, and they will ask people to make a line, or so to speak, and they'll know who is going to go with them or not, and that goes hand in hand with going off and starting anew. But that's only if it comes to that situation, and they hope that it doesn't. So I just want to put that out there as very important, because we're coming into a time here where this disclosure is going to be happening, and a lot of people are going to be like, okay, well, where are the ETs? And they're going to make it known that there's going to be flybys and stuff like that. So people will be like, oh, and we're talking something like, something that everybody will be able to know for sure that this is from them. But the deceiving point is that our government doesn't want this stuff out. That's why I'm on here talking about this. And this what I'm talking about now is extremely sensitive information, but it's okay because it's already been public and talked about by other individuals. And so before we bring this to a close, just remember to keep your wits about you. And if you do see craft in the sky, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is an ET. It could be a back engineered craft, and those are not your friends. those are military. Those are people that are trying to pretend that they're ETs. And I've had dreams about this in the past, but anyway, that's the important thing that I needed to mention. That's part of their plan, is to take people back with them if things get really ridiculous on this planet. But it's because we're their family. We have Earth families here, but at the same time, we have other families, and they're not just gonna. It's like we're like children to them. They're not gonna just let us here, leave us to die. If there's a massive problem. So anyway, we can get into that a lot later, some other time. I apologize for the very crypticness of the whole reptilian thing and other things, but I'm still trying to figure this stuff out on my own, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. There really are. So without further ado, that's basically the gist of everything that I had to say. And I know that in a lot of respects it'll sound really crazy to a lot of people, which is why I need to go under this different alias, because I don't want to be known for this. I'm just here to spread the message.
I understand. No, you don't need to explain. That's fine. I'm sure our audience totally gets it. There's people that will troll people just for their haircut, or for the shirt that they're wearing, or for a poster that they have behind the wall, or for a mispronunciation, or for the color of their skin, or what kind of, their eyes are shape-shifting on air. They're reptilian CIA agents that work for the planet Nebuchadnezzar. So I totally get it. And you are bringing some sensitive information to the table. So we'll leave it at that. And it was a pleasure to speak with you. It's great to catch up again. I really look forward to next time. Folks, make sure to go to leakproject.com. If you haven't become an exclusive member there, a premium member, you can become a premium member for $50 the entire year. Get access to unlimited podcasts, exclusive content, downloadable, streamable, ad-free. And thank you for your support, everybody. Also, youtube.com/clandestine time lord. Podcasts are always free on YouTube. Go to getthetea.com. They've got the best supplements on the market. I've been taking this stuff called colostrum, and it is amazing. And it's late right now. I just got back from a approximately 20-mile bike ride, a little bit more than that in the hill country, and I'm ready to go on another 20-mile bike ride. And this stuff is just keeping me going. I'm not even
Oh my God.
coffee, so it's just colostrum is the way to go. But anyway, thanks for everything, Starbuck. This has been awesome.
Yeah, of course, no problem. And just, be skeptical. Don't believe everything that I say. I encourage you to look at, do your own research. And if you do come into contact, just, keep your wits about you. That's all.
Cool. Absolutely. Keep your wits about you. Question everything, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, especially if something like that happens. Question that extremely. Like Kendall said, remember the Heaven's Gate people that they all had on the same shoes. They're all wearing. If they ask you to wear white Nikes, run. Just run. No matter how many times they shapeshift. If they give you a pair of white Nikes, you turn around and you run away and never talk to them again. But be the change you want to see, ladies and gentlemen. Have a beautiful evening.
With some kind of a belt that they were wearing, and it seemed pretty tight fit. And this is when they were standing in the driveway before I was taken into their craft.
And did they have shoes on?
I don't remember if they actually had shoes on, to be honest with you. I just know that they had a suit on, and they did have those almond-shaped eyes, very characteristic of grays, and the pale sort of skin.
So, okay, this was 13. No, this would have been 11 years ago. So you would have been 18, and they picked you up in your driveway, and they were in a craft?
Yeah. What happened was when I went to bed that night, before I did, there was a strange set of lights going on outside, and we had lived in a very secluded area away from town. So we were kind of like sort of, near the beach, actually literally right on the beach. So we were tucked into, a secluded place. And when I saw these lights, I thought it was just another car coming in somewhere, but I ignored it. And the next thing I know, I'm standing in the living room, and I feel some sort of sense of movement where they've come to land outside, and I'm completely conscious of what's going on here. So for some reason, I open the door, I walk outside, I feel the grass on my feet, and I get to the driveway, and there he is, standing right there. I wasn't sure actually if there were two of them or if he had turned away from the window that he was looking into. Because what I remember is that I saw the being looking into the window where I was sleeping, and then he turned and walked towards me, and with his trying to think what side it was, his left hand, from your point of view, so on the right side, he put his palm up. I don't know if that's significant or not, but
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Starbuck with us, which she is going to share some very sensitive and personal abduction / encounters with two different types of extraterrestrials. And not only has she had these encounters, but her friend has been a part of some of them as well. And I think it's fascinating. I've known Starbuck now for years. She is legit. She's not selling any books. She doesn't have any agendas except for she wants to get this information out there. And I appreciate that. So I am giving her an open platform. Thank you, Starbuck, for joining us here at the Leak Project. How have you been? How the heck are you?
Hey, Rex, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, it's been quite a wild journey. There's been a lot going on, and I can't wait to share it with with people here.
That's great. Well, and let me tell you too, just to give the audience a background a little bit about you, the way that we met was really unique because you actually heard me talking on a chat forum. It's funny because, folks, before I was doing Leak Project full-time, when I was doing a full-time job for a Fortune 100 company, as I told you before, I was still ranting and raving about certain agendas that the powers that be seem to have, and things that frustrated me with everyday life, such as the chemtrails, the stuff in the vaccines, and just all, Fukushima and other events that have taken place, the false flags, the lying in the media. And I used to rant about it all the time in a forum that was out there when they had a specific chat part open. And she heard me talking a few times, and then she reached out to me, and she knew something about my life, which nobody would know unless they were a part of my life. And it was really cool. And ever since then, I think we've had a really neat relationship. Sometimes we won't talk for a couple of years, but when we do talk, we don't skip a beat. And I just feel honored to have her on the show. So Starbuck, let's rock and roll. What do you got for us?
Okay. Well, let me just start off in the beginning that in 2006, I was contacted by 3 multidimensional blue genderless and faceless translucent beings. And, I've always been interested in the ufology field. I've always been interested in spirituality. And so I started getting really interested in this whole starseed concept where you may not be from this planet. And I always felt I've always felt very close to the stars. And with that said, I had a contact experience, the first one being these multidimensional beings that came up to me in a dream and said that I was Pleiadian. So I didn't understand what that meant at the time, and that was 2006. I'm almost 29 years old now, and I've had a plethora of these experiences from all the way from 2006 up to now. And during my research, I also have had experiences in between that where I've come across the Greys, I've come across the Reptilians, I've also come across these Pleiadians. And when that happened, it was very confusing at first, because I was taken onto these ships and I didn't dare talk about this to anybody else because I didn't want anybody to think I was nuts. So I kept it to myself for a while, and this this woman who contacted me is a Pleiadian, and that was 2010 that she took me onto the ship. We embraced each other, and I absolutely recognized that there was some kind of soul recognition there, and she had explained to me a few things about something to do with concept of Trinity, which I don't understand still to this day. Now, the reason why I'm saying these things is because I've been involved in a long string of experiences that eventually led to real physical contact. And these people are here now because they are a family, and in a sense. So with everybody here on the planet, a lot of people, they used to be a part of Atlantis, and since there was a massive tragedy, we have all forgotten that. But that's what I've come to find out in any event, through a lot of experiences and questioning and talking to people and talking to them, quite frankly. Do you have any questions before I go on?
Yeah. So in 2006, when you had your first experience, let's get into that.
Okay. Which 2006? You mean? Which one?
Your very first experience that you remember, and if you could get into it with details as much as you can, put us in the picture. That'd be much appreciated.
With the multidimensional beings?
Yeah, I mean, was that your first one? Was that your very first encounter with something that wasn't human?
Yes. That was my first encounter, and then after that, it was the Greys that had taken me to an underground base. At least that's what it looked like. So in the beginning, the multidimensional beings, that one was was in a dream. Okay, so I was in my grandmother's house for some reason, and this is exactly how it went down. I was there, and there were all of a sudden these three blue people. They have no faces, they have no gender, and the energy about them is extremely intense. But they were dwarfing me. They were very, very tall, translucent beings. And they said, and they mentioned my name, I can't mention, and they said, "You are Pleiadian." And when they said that, I recognized the fact that I was a part of a group of people that decided to incarnate here on this planet to be a part of these changes that are taking place on the earth. And they have been for quite a while, but now we're coming into a time where we're starting to see these powers or factions that are just starting to just fall apart. And now the illusion is being broken, so people can see that. But in any event, there was, because it was a dream, there was also a tiger that had come up to me, and I haven't quite figured out what that meant, but there's a tiger that came up to me, and I could feel his whiskers on my face, and that was sort of the end of it, of that experience.
Okay. And when you had your experience with the Greys, let's get into that and the underground. You said that's what you thought it was.
Oh yeah, that was a very intense experience. So this
And
happened when I
let me
was.
ask you real quick too before we get, sorry to interrupt. Did they
That's
look
okay.
like this?
I'm sorry. Wait.
Did they look like this picture on the screen? The Greys.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I'm not sure if that picture is real. They do look like that. They vary in size. There are tall grays, there are shorter grays, and sometimes there would be people with them, but I wouldn't see their faces. So
And how many? So you saw all different sizes of the Greys,
yes,
and they had, what were they? Did they wear any clothes?
yes. The ones that took me, they were wearing a silver suit. It seemed that that's what they were wearing, and they had, it was a silver suit